Ladies and gents, welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Coffee. This is our second episode, and for those of you tuning in for the first time, as well as our returning audience, this series is brought to you by Supligen, who has a brand new coffee flavor in stores now island-wide, and it's absolutely delicious, so I need you to go and try it. Supligen, for the month of October, has also partnered with Cafe Blue to offer limited edition beverages all across the Cafe Blue locations. And trust me, they will tell you it's something you need in your life. It is so good. Another very important thing we need in our lives right now is the discussion of our men and their mental health and the stigma that surrounds that. And today with me, I have some really special guests. I have Wayne Marshall, big up yourself, and he's sipping on this Supligen French ice. Have you tasted it? It's good?
Supligen can't really go wrong for me still, you know. Yeah. Nice. Love it, I love it.
Nice. And I also have with me Kim, who is sipping on the hazelnut cappuccino. And is it yummy?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I just can't. It's almost finished already. We just start.
I love it. So, really serious discussion today, guys. Still have to keep it in our life, but we need to get some really important points across because mental health is no joke, as we all know, and we all have people in our lives that suffer from that, yeah? So let's kick off the discussion real quick with the conversation about men and their mental health and why do we think it's avoided in Jamaica? Wayne, we can start with you.
Why is mental health avoided in Jamaica by men?
Right.
Well, I think for the most part, Jamaican man have a thing named pride. And we don't like to show weakness. And I think Jamaican men naturally think that if we accept or admit to going through some sort of a mental issue, then that might be admitting to a weakness, or somebody might use it against me and say, oh, you know, she's saying mother, you know? Yeah. So I think that's one of the most important issues, you know, why kind of avoid it.
So Kim, do you think we talk about men and their mental health enough in Jamaica or any at all? And why is it important to do so?
Well, first things first, I think that mental health is something that we're doing a lot better at talking about, but we're not talking about it enough. In terms of our men, I have to say no, I don't think we're talking enough about it. And it's extremely important because in order for society to run, men, women, children, we all have to have the part of our body that controls everything in order, which is our mental space. To answer your question, I definitely think we don't. Why is this important? In addition to it being important for us to be able to function as a society, men, as much as it's a lot of pressure, the truth is men, they protect, you know, and that's also a part of the reason why they don't want to talk about what they're feeling, because it's perceived as weak. And no one wants to have or to be perceived as that roof that can't cover the house. When the reality is, a mechanic who, I lost a point, hold on. When the reality is, a mechanic who doesn't have time to check its tools won't be really good at doing its job. So it's really important that we check our headspace as men, as women, and also as parents to children or guardians to children. It's super important for us to function.
Well said. All right, so since we're talking about men and mental health, let's talk about what mental health is before we go any further. And that can just be from your own perspective, your own experience.
What is mental health? Well, in my limited capacity, I think I have to leave the explanation of what mental to the professional. But yes, I have experience by association. I've known people who have struggled with mental health, so I know it. I've dealt with it, you know. Right. Personally, as I say, I haven't really discussed this issue on a platform like this, because as you know, it's not something that is a musician doesn't really get thrown that question regularly. It's more like, when is a new song coming out, you know? But mental health,
it's all hard to come out.
But mental health is a real issue, you know, and it's something that we really need to give attention and as a society be more sensitive to.
Yeah.
And as what we're doing here now, speaking on it.
All right. So, like you said something, let me just frame it in a different way then. You've had experiences with, so what does it look like? Just because, it's specific to the different people. But in a general sense, what you've observed, what does it look like? People with mental health issues.
Well, it's such a broad spectrum. Yeah. Such a broad spectrum, I have just known it and understood it to be somebody who you know and trust, just really being out of character. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can see it, you can feel it. Period, probably. For an extended period, yeah, man, it's something that I've dealt with from young days, All
right, thank you. Mm-hmm. Before I get to you with the question, have you ever struggled personally with any mental health issues, even if it's just an acute situation?
No, I can't say that, because as far as I know, I'm good. Yeah. I'm good, but then who knows? Maybe I've had points in my life where I've been maybe smoking too much, or maybe doing something on a compulsive level that could put me on a spectrum like that. But then in my perspective, I'm good. I'm cool. I would not say that I have had any, direct issues with mental health.
And you're a doctor, so I'm hoping you can also offer that kind of clarity. What is mental health?
Okay. So there's a medical definition, right? And there's a definition that I'm going to say today so that everybody can understand what we're talking about, yeah? So mental health is really the state of stability or instability in the mind. Mm-hmm. And that can range from emotions and thoughts, right? Because those are the things that are predominantly in the mind, right? So inability to have control of either your emotions or your thoughts. Mm-hmm. And then that now would enable us to put that on a spectrum. Right? So then the spectrum can go from someone passed away in your life and you don't know how to deal with that. Right. To further down on the spectrum, you have many thoughts, some of them that feels like they're not your own, which is classified as schizophrenia. Right? So there's a range of mental disorders or mental health issues, because not all of them are disorders. Right? So if we were to talk about mental health, really want to emphasize the simpler things, and not saying that they're simple, but they're less complex in terms of explaining what they are. Right. For example, anger. Mm-hmm. Anger, the inability to control how you respond to a situation and blow things up, not out of proportion, because who are we to determine what something is to someone else, but to have a response that is exacerbated, that is considered having an issue, I don't want to say it's a mental issue, but it's instability in the mind, right? So there's a spectrum of mental health. And when it comes to our men, women, and children here in Jamaica and across the world, we deem to put labels on mental health because it sounds neat or it sounds crazy. When the reality is, it's admirable when someone is able to discern what's going on in their head, acknowledge it, put it into thought, and then express it. And that is called healthy mental health. To be able to, or a healthy mental state, to be able to say, hold on there, what's going on? Right. Okay, it's that. I'm upset about this. Them not easy, and then be able to express that in a way that is healthy. Right. So that's a better word.
And just to add to what both of them said, in terms of evaluation of your overall health, many people just think it's your physical health and how your body is functioning. But you must understand and remember, after this moment, mental health is involved in the evaluation of your overall health. So you have to take care of here and here. It's a holistic thing. Yeah?
Absolutely.
All right. So why are men less likely to speak about mental health, for example, depression, in Jamaica? Why do you think so?
Take it away.
Why are men less likely to speak about mental health? I guess, again, it's for the fear of accepting that this might be my reality. Right. Because a lot of times we think if we admit to it or we talk about it, it's accepting it and it might give it more life.
Yeah.
right? So I think that scares a lot of men. So especially if you probably think that something is an issue, you might stay far from it because you say, yo, you know what, open that kind of worm there. You prefer make that sit down and stay around at one far part in your head more than have to discuss it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's why we are also afraid to talk to somebody, talk to a specialist, because again, that is like saying, something do me. You know, earlier we were discussing, and I had the same thought earlier, that we as men or as humans sometimes think that mental illness is like a life sentence, where there's nothing that you can really do or say to get rid of it. And then you think, okay, there might be medication, but the stigma around the medication for mental health is that there are a lot of side effects. So we don't want to get rid of one problem, but pick up 5 more problems, you know? So it is, trust me, it's not easy for accept or even for talk to, you know what I mean? I'm sure you guys have people who struggle with, just like myself. Listen, I can speak with experience on mental health issues from experience, because as young as from high school days, I've had friends, family members who struggle with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, you know? So it's things that I have grappled with and I have had to head on deal with, you know? So I know how difficult it is and how far as a man you want to stay from that and don't want to say, yo, me could have been. No, sir. Right? So it's just something where, again, it's a shield, you know, we try to protect ourselves, and that's just one of the coping mechanisms to kind of make it stay far around our one part.
And then the thing is, you know, it's not that you're actually protecting yourself, and that's just what you think you're doing. But then the more you hide from it, is the worse it gets. So hopefully, if anyone listening right now has any sort of realization that maybe they might be struggling with something like this, running away from it is the start of it getting worse. It will not get better. Facing it head on is really the best way to cope with what it is. You have to face the reality, right? What about you?
I actually have a saying about that. Darkness doesn't drive out darkness.
It doesn't.
The only cure to darkness is light. So if you are having an issue, covering it up, it's like a wound that festers. And it's funny because you were speaking about fear, and I just said that the reason why men don't speak about it, fear about what it is, but also the fear of being rejected. The fear of being rejected, and those two things, fear and rejection, I call them soul wounds. As we were talking about things in the dark and festering up, those are soul wounds. You see, when someone is rejected and turned away because they're experiencing something or they're feeling something, they don't want to be rejected, because the reality is emotions and mental instability, or being unable to control how you feel or what you think, is deemed as something to be rejected, when the truth is we all at some point in time struggle with it at different levels. So some persons may be really sad and don't know what's going on with them, and some persons may be sad for a year or two, and there's a spectrum, but at some point in time we've experienced not being able to put a cap on our emotions, right? And it's deemed as you being less than or not accepted if you do, especially with our men, because our men are supposed to be strong and sturdy.
That's the stigma as well,
But I'm gonna look right in the camera and let the man them know.
And then
You being able to know what you're feeling and executing that, it's a good look, I'm just saying. So, you know, so don't run from it, you know, because it's a good look, right?
You're saying.
It's interesting that you bring up that point, because I also feel that the mind it can be deemed like a trash can, and it gets full, and sometimes full of junk, and you need to empty it out as opposed to make it stay full and fester and get toxic. You know what I mean?
So that word toxic is a very popular word right now too, isn't it?
Right. Toxic. Yeah, exactly. You don't want your baggage to overload in your mind and get toxic. So I have an experiment that I'm running through my family vlog, where I'm just being authentic and being truthful and trying to be as transparent as possible. And what I've realized is that where I was afraid of speaking my truth, now that I've started to speak my truth, I've realized that them say the truth hurt, but I realized that the truth heals.
Sets you free.
Guess what that's like?
Yeah, no, the truth.
Yeah,
Them
man.
say the truth hurt.
Yeah.
But when we get to find out, say the truth heals.
Oh, I hear that.
Yeah,
man.
no.
You give you wings.
No man, no,
life.
real talk, because I have had things that I've been dealing with and grappling with and stressing over.
Yeah.
And when I say it, it's like a weight come off of me.
The shackles come off of your ankle and you can finally
Exactly. And I don't say this from I'm actually doing this. You know what I mean? I'm not saying this as something that sounds good. It's something that I'm actually doing, and I'm feeling the effects of it.
Right.
And I'm feeling the healing, and I'm feeling the release of you know, I was the man who would have never got to a counselor or never got to a therapist, because I'm thinking, therapist, how am I going to help with my problem? Probably a problem just like me too. But the truth is, sometimes you just need somebody to speak to and express what has been lingering.
And somebody trained, because it's different when you talk to your friends, because they also have their own experiences, you know. So sometimes their judgment can be clouded, just like that as well. But if you talk with somebody trained, they know the intricacies of the mind, they understand them things when you go through, and they can break it down. So that's a really great point. I like that.
You know, it's funny you said that, because it also, knowing that speaking to a professional is an option to go to if you're struggling with something for a period of time is so important, because many of us are expecting persons to raise us and be our therapist and do the work for us, like our spouse or our parents, when the reality is we can't expect a chef to be a gardener. You know, so not the people in your life aren't, yes, you can talk to them, yes, they're there to help you along the way, but if you're suffering with something for years and there's a lot of wounds and baggage, it's really important to know when your family isn't enough and you need to speak to someone who's a professional, because what ends up happening is we try to fix wounds that we didn't create, that we can't heal because we're not trained. So it's so important to also really know when it's time to seek help and know that you can't do it on your own. You know, it's so important. And you spoke about wounds, and you said on your blog you were talking about going through and dealing with your emotions and speaking your truth. And I can't help but to see this visual. I guess it's the doctor in me, but I see like a surgery, and you're going in and you're removing out the cancerous lesion, and it's a painful process. It hurt, man. It takes work, but you see, what operation doesn't? And it's literally an operation of your soul to go in and fix those wounds, treat the infection, because really and truly the wound is not really what causes the issue, it's the infection, the sepsis, because then it starts to just go through every aspect of your life. Your relationships are affected, all relationships, your job relationships, and then before you know it, you're in a state of instability and you're wondering, where did it come from?
So it's important to grab it then earlier.
As soon as you start recognizing this pattern coming out, it's really important for you to address it. And we've been using the word healing, and she's been using the word wound. And many people like to say, you know, I'm scarred, which means that this thing is forever. I'm feeling it forever. But that's a misconception. You can't feel a scar. You can only feel a wound, something that is fresh. If it's a scar, that means it's healed, and you might be seeing it, but you don't feel anything when you touch it. It no longer affects you. And so looking at these wounds, take that word scar out of your mind. If you're still struggling with something, you're not scarred, you're still wounded. So you have to work on that to get it to being scarred, where you're no longer taken over by this thing. Right? So we want men to get in touch with their feelings, connect with themselves. But what does that mean? Like, even for you, what does saying that to a man supposed to mean to him?
Well, what I get from that is a lot of times as men, we suppress our feelings and emotions based on what society expects of us, based on a lot of times how we were raised, you know. A lot of times the male figures in our life never really showed certain emotions, so we think that exploring or showing these emotions is a sign of weakness, as opposed to just another way of releasing this internal pressure that we might be feeling, you know. So I have been also working on that as an adult, you know what I mean, for the last couple of decades. I mean, I'm not that old, but
Love yourself, man. Why don't you?
Right. No, so I've been working on that, you know, and I've seen where that is also a release too, you know, because sometimes as man we can cry. We can cry about certain situations. Just today, tears was in my eyes based on something that I was witnessing and experiencing. And yes, I was by myself, but I wasn't afraid to express myself in that way because sometimes I think that a lot of powerful inspiration and clarity comes when you can actually let go of that macho stigma and just be and allow your spirit to just work. You know, so if it's tears or if it's goosebumps or whatever to come, just make it flow through, you know?
And many times we're concerned about how people will see us when that happens. But I remember as a child, the first time I saw my dad cry was when my grandmother died. They were very close.
Same.
First time. I remember he had to go and put a rose on the casket and he went up and he put the rose down and he's like, he stepped away and I just saw him literally just fall, kneeling to the ground and just bawling. And that was so liberating for me because I always knew him to just always hold it, right, together. But when he did that, I was like, he's allowing himself to feel what he feels. And that was a positive example for me as a child. I never thought my father was weak. I said, yo, big up yourself, daddy, you know, cry because that's good. That's healthy.
Same exact scenario happened with my father where the first time I saw him actually cry and show that type of emotion was when his mother passed. And I took the same thing from it. I was like, big up yourself, G. Like, it's good to know that you have that array of emotions. And, you know, it probably took an extreme, you know, incident to make it come out, but it still showed me that, okay, men can cry, you know, and there are certain things in life that will warrant this expression or this emotion, you know. So that was important for me, but it's funny you said that.
How do you think we can encourage men to get in touch with their feelings?
Wow, where do I begin? Well, one, examples. Yes. We're gonna do. There's a few things, but I'm just gonna let them just flow. Examples. Either it be your father, father or male figures in your life, but even in the media. I believe that we have influencers for everything, and I believe that we have a lot of female influencers for emotions and mental health, speaking your truth. But I think that if we could get some men on board that actually show the process of emotions and going to someone to talk about it and a healthy way to tackle the emotions that we all face. We're all given emotions. I think that's one way. Two, let's go into the home. We spoke about outside, right? Let's go into the home. I really believe that a major issue that we have is not just from the fathers, you know, but also the mothers. I feel like we speak a lot about women being silenced, but our boys are being silenced as well. Our boys are being silenced, and even to some extent our men, because if they start to cry, tapinay, we are all, you know. And if we're teaching them to be quiet from they're young, what do we expect to happen? Where are they going to learn to talk? You know? So if we take the approach of really showing our boys and even our men, our spouses, our persons we're in a relationship with, it's okay, it's safe to have your emotions here. I feel like as a society, we can be a little more on the angry side. So we can forget that other persons have emotions as well. And I think that it's important for us to start to create safe environments for everyone to have emotions and not be scrutinized or attacked about it. And the third thing that we can do is inquire, because a lot of the time, the truth is we've learned how to mask as a people. We're really resilient. We're really strong. Jamaican people, we're strong. We tallow. Look what we tallow in or strong. But we also come like everybody have a gene of acting. Because you have no idea when someone's feeling something. So intimately ask them, so how you doing? Like really, how you doing? You know, and actually asking it in a way where you discern whether or not it's the right time. If they don't want to speak about it, just know, say they want to talk. You know, and randomly doing it or just checking in on your friends. It's so important to create the environment, even if they don't take the bait immediately. One day they may be really going through it, so you know, say I don't call XYZ because they did ask me at one time there, you know, and it creates, it may not be an immediate effect, but it's something that in time, I believe that we can really change the direction of where we're going as a country when it comes to mental health.
And you just spurred a thought in my mind. Then how can we encourage, or how can we do our part then to encourage people in Jamaica to speak more about men and mental health in general? How can we play our part in that?
But individually, well, as I said, we can speak about it.
Yeah.
And we could talk about our own struggles. It could be something as simple, you know, I got upset today. Like even like for me, I know I do this on my social media. Anybody that follow my stories, I just tell like, story time, come have a seat, everybody. Yeah. But actually showing emotions and how to handle it in a healthy way. Setting an example. We learn we're creatures of habit and we're creatures of example. So the reality is, if we see, oh wait a minute, when that person's angry, they pull to the side and talk about it, and then they actually express themselves. Maybe I could try that. I mean, it's not easy. Like right now we're talking about it, and it can seem like, oh, it's just ABC. No, it's not just ABC. It's quite difficult. It is easier said than done, but we really can play our part by doing our part. We can be the change that we want to see in the world. That's super important. And another thing that we can do to ensure that we try to initiate change is also put in place things for our men in terms of mental health. I know we have hotlines now in the time of COVID, but I had a conversation with a few men asking, so if anything were to happen, especially in this time where there's loss, there's uncertainty, people don't have jobs, there's so many things going on.
Basic needs.
Those are things to talk about and discuss. Like when we talk about mental health, losing your job, not knowing where the money will come from, that is something that can really throw off your whole mental state. And then if you have mental issues, that can then affect your immune system, and then immune system's affected, and then your whole body is like a ripple effect. So I think it's important that we somehow come together and create environments for our boys and our men to know what to do.
All right, so what do you think? How can we play our part in encouraging men to talk about their mental health, and what actions can we take in general to push it?
I think this conversation, this forum now is a good start. So kudos to the Supligen team for continuing. I wouldn't say starting, because as you said earlier, we are making strides with the conversation about mental health, but there's more we can do. There's more the leaders, the influencers, the musicians can do to speak about, because I think I can go as far as to say, as we all as adults in Jamaica have some sort of experience, some sort of relative relation to somebody who has a mental issue of some sort, so we all need to play our part, and we all can speak, by experience, and I think it's just a conversation that we need to take the stigma of it being this taboo subject, and just let's discuss it, and let's talk about our own personal experience, so somebody else can see, through us, based on our platform, that these people, high achievers, they're going through it. They don't have perfect lives, they have issues and they struggle just like anybody else. So I think it's important for us as leaders and as influencers and artists to speak about these issues,
And you're a parent. Can you add to that? What about in the home? Because it starts there. So and you have mainly boys. You have 4 boys. Yeah. So how do you create that atmosphere in the home?
What I want to do, I prefer to lead by example as opposed to opinion, So what I want them to be, I try to be, as an example to them. So I show emotions, my son running in the room today, I was like, Daddy, do you make noise when you cry? Because he saw a little tear run down my face, and we had the little conversation. I was like, no, but I see and I feel so much better, So I wasn't trying to, he's coming in the room, let me hide, because that just becomes a facade. We want them to understand that we as adults go through varying emotions, and we can express ourselves, and it's cool, it's okay to do that. So that's how I kind of, as I say, I just try to be that example,
And many of us, we go through the school system, many systems that could be better towards that aspect of taking care of ourselves and mental health. So I think the leaders, as you said, we just came out of an election. Going forward, I hope that those systems that include children especially, focus on how they can care for themselves mentally. So as they grow up, they understand that this is a real thing, you know. So it happens at home, but it's also reinforced in these systems they're exposed to when they leave the home.
Yes.
I think we had the best guests today for this topic. That's so good. I'm so proud of you guys, because mental health, mental health is a really, really serious thing. Very, very big thing also in my life, and I'm so happy that you guys covered it the way you did. Thank you so much. Man, that was good. I hope you guys felt the conversation, because we did. And if you or anyone you care about, anyone you love, you know is struggling with some sort of mental health issues, please make yourself accessible to them as best as possible. Play your part in supporting them and their wellness, and yourself especially. And remember, it starts inwardly. You can't expect anybody else to do the work for you. It starts in here. So look here first, and then you work your way out. So this was an absolutely amazing time, very eye-opening, very refreshing to even have a man here, of course, speaking about this topic, and so well. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kim. Thank you guys, especially for being here with us. And please stay tuned for the next episode. It's going to be on October 24th. Go out and get your Supligen coffee. It's in stores everywhere right now. And remember, you can get the limited edition mixes for October at all the Cafe Blue locations. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.